So, what we have just discovered yesterday through the grace and magic of Savitri is that the spirit and mind are not the same thing. This is one of the big confusions in modern psychology and modern thought. We cannot conceive of anything beyond the mind or other than the mind. Mind lives in frames. That's its comfort zone. And these frames are the various theoretical, philosophical systems, ideas, ideologies, belief systems, so-called certain facts, which is always a limited data, based on which and our limited experience, we make constructs, various constructs. We don't realize that while we make these constructs to make life little more easy to manage, but we also get trapped within it. And then we start looking at everything through that lens. Much of this construct is simply a conditioning. As we grow up in a certain family, certain environment, receive a certain kind of schooling, culture, custom, etc., etc., read some books, we form more and more constructs. And then, once we are 25 or maybe 30, if we are lucky, we believe, now I know what life is about. And if we are if we are not so lucky, we become teachers. So we believe, now I know I can teach. And we also become parents. So parents always know. It's a big ego feeder. I know it. So all this only ends up feeding our ego, strengthening the walls, the prison walls. We don't realize it. It's very convenient. But spirituality goes beyond it. That's why Sri Aurobindo says in one of his letters, spirituality is not high intellectuality. It is not morality. It is not philosophy. But it does not mean, therefore, that spiritual man should be an immoral man. This is how our mental logic works. It is something far more difficult than morality. Far more difficult than to live within certain frames of thought. Mother says about it in the agenda very beautifully. She says, people want fixed dogmas and they are comfortable with that. But to lead a true and a free life, both things together, not just a free life, but a true and free life is very difficult. They can't conceive of it. It's frightening. The fact is that the spirit is infinite. It's not, it can use any frame, but all these frames are devices, they are helpful. But we must not confuse these frames for the true thing. That's what Sri Aurobindo reveals to us. And that's why Savitri doesn't stop by registering her name in the book of the elite. Book of the elite is that, ranked amongst the greatest thinkers, philosophers. This is how we believe, so and so, great thinker, great philosopher. Look at Sri Ramakrishna Paramahans, uneducated, almost illiterate, almost. He had studied till 6th standard. So once, Bankim Chand came to see him. Now Bankim Chand is a erudite, not only a writer, scholar. So he comes to see Sri Ramakrishna. So Sri Ramakrishna tells him, Bankim Chand has, almost a seer-like capacity to write. He was not an ordinary writer. He had an exceptional caliber. He's not just an intellectual writer, somebody who wrote Anandamath, the famous song we have, Bande Matram. So when he came to see Sri Ramakrishna told him, half in jest, "Oh, the river has come to meet a Nalla," referring to himself as a little stream, Nalla. He says, the river has come to meet a Nalla. That was Sri Ramakrishna's ways. So Bankim Chand gave a wonderful reply. He said, when the Nala is flooded and flooded and flooded, it becomes a sea and it drowns even the river in it. Very beautiful reply that you may call yourself Nala, but I know you are flooded with the infinite ocean of truth, light and knowledge. So what am I? Rivers, many rivers like me will get lost and drowned into it. But this wisdom does not come through thought. That's what we read repeatedly in the Upanishad. Na yamatma pravachane na medha na bahuna shuten yamaveshe vranute tena labhyastasyesh atma vivranute tanuswam. Again, Sri Aurobindo affirms the same thing. This light comes not by struggle or by thought. In the mind silence the transcendent acts, and the hushed heart hears the unuttered word. That's one of the messages Sri Aurobindo wrote to a disciple. A veil behind the heart and a lid above the mind. Love and devotion rend the veil. It's very difficult to go otherwise. But love and devotion rend the veil. What a beautiful description. They tear it away. In the quietude of the mind, the lid thins and vanishes. So, two simple practices. Make the mind quiet and have love for the infinite, for the divine. Doesn't matter with whatever name we call him. He's not, we may have sex, but he is non-sectarian. He sees that little thing inside. So, Savitri is asked by this crowd to wait there, and they will offer her membership. And what does she say? Yes. We are on page 499. She is told by these beings in the mental world, this is the end and there is no beyond. Here is the safety of the ultimate wall. Look, the paradox, ultimate wall. Here is the clarity of the sword of light. Here is the victory of a single truth. Here burns the diamond of flawless bliss. A favorite of heaven and nature live. But to the too satisfied and confident sage, Savitri replied, casting into his world sight's deep release, the heart's questioning inner voice. It's not just a mental thought, but the quest of the heart. It cannot be satisfied with the limited and the finite. For here the heart spoke not only clear daylight, here in that mental domain. Heart has been suppressed, the life impulse has been chained. For here the heart spoke not only clear daylight of intellect reigned here, limiting, cold, precise. So this we know is the old timer so-called Gyan Yogis, because at a point comes in Gyan Yoga when we discover the self, we also fall in love with it. But up to a certain point, so they crush the heart, because heart will mislead. So therefore they just simply chain it. So there is no heart there, but clear daylight. And so Savitri tells them that all right, I am happy that you are happy. Very nice passage. Happy are they who in this chaos of things, this coming and going of the feet of time, can find the single truth, the eternal law. He says, I am glad that you people have found the single truth and the eternal law. You will be happy because it's very convenient and comfortable. You see, when people read Sri Aurobindo, this is one of their biggest difficulties. Sri Aurobindo challenges the thought to its ultimate limits and then to burst beyond it. And it can be unnerving. Even some of the mother's statements. One of them, for example, is, she says, it is a real adventure And if you have the taste for adventure, come. What will happen to you tomorrow, I do not know. Now, this can be very unnerving. People want something very comforting. I'll make sure. Of course, he has said that also. But if you just read this, it can be frightening. When Sri Aurobindo says the dread law of the way, Sri Aurobindo does not want to give us comfortable, pleasant truths. Easy to believe, simple to practice. But he wants to give us the truth, which cannot be cut into small strips. Though all these strips are there, because it's the total sky. So every glimpse is there. We can see in Sri Aurobindo all the glimpses of various sects and religions, and everybody can find something of that. But the truth goes beyond it. Untouched, they live by hope and doubt and fear. Happy are men anchored on fixed belief. In this uncertain and ambiguous world, or who have planted in the heart's rich soil one small grain of spiritual certitude. Says they are happy. They found it's a good thing. It's not a bad thing to have this. It is very comforting. It is very comforting to know, for example, that I belong to a certain religion and therefore I have booked a seat in heaven. You live by that belief and die with that belief. The belief, it doesn't matter what kind of belief it is. For example, if I die, if I kill myself and kill others, I have a seat booked in heaven. Now, it's a strange and weird belief. People believe such things. It's very convenient to believe that if, I do morning prayer and evening prayer, divine God is very happy with me and I must follow some precepts and therefore everything will be good for me. But life throws challenges. So when things don't go our way, then we have another belief. Oh, it's not my life in this life, it is my previous karma. Finished. No quest further. Who made the law of karma? Who trapped the soul into ignorance? Don't ask these things. There is no answer to it. That is how cults will come and say. When in Delhi once some people who are enthusiasts to convert others, they came and wanted to convert me. They came to know that he is a bit spiritually inclined. So I started asking him nutty questions. Why this world was created, all kinds of nutty things, just to have a little fun. So after some time, no, these questions only God can answer. These questions only God can answer. I said, thank you so much. Yes, God has answered for me. Here is the answer. The Life Divine was on my table. I said, if you want, you can take it, borrow it, non-returnable basis. There are answers. They were not happy about it because they don't have the questions. Questions make you uncomfortable. So, here, much better to have a little limited belief and this kind of certitude, fixed belief. Happiest who stand on faith as on a rock. Of course, here Sri Aurobindo is not speaking of that faith that opens the door. Faith. We all have a certain faith. Faith in some doctrines, faith in certain sects, faith in this, faith in that. So happiest to stand on faith as on a rock. Now you see, this is where the problem comes in quoting Sri Aurobindo. Now if you read this passage and put it, I have actually read, incidentally, these 3-4 lines quoted somewhere. Particularly this line, happiest to stand on faith as on a rock. It in itself, it's a standalone line. And you say, what a marvelous thing Sri Aurobindo has written. But look at what follows, just next. But I must pass, leaving the ended search. If you read the next line, you realize it's insufficient. Here, this faith is not about that faith which opens the door and helps you to walk, that light of the soul. But I must pass, leaving the ended search. Truth's rounded outcome firm, immutable, and this harmonic building of world fact, this ordered knowledge of apparent things. Here I can stay not, for I seek my soul. This is the quest. This is the fire. It's very nice. It's a lovely philosophical system. Wonderful. But it's not enough. Something else I seek. The direct contact, the real touch. philosophical systems are like, or theological dogmas are like a book on journey to Mount Everest. They are lovely pictures, you read all about it. You know what happens when you climb 10,000 feet, oxygen is less, all that you have learned. And you turn it into a belief system. Then after that you can make slides and give a lecture on how to go to Mount Everest. But the real adventure is when you go and meet the unexpected. You have heard there is snow blindness. You have heard there are avalanches. But you don't know when it will come. No book can predict it. Maybe you will have a smooth sail. Maybe you will be hit by one of those snow blizzards. Maybe you grow blind. Maybe you go breathless. And I can tell you it can be very unnerving experience. Even after all the knowledge. And this experience, just to share what is the difference between religion and spiritual life. Spiritual life is real stuff. Yoga takes place in real time. So when I had first gone to Leh, it's 11,500 around that. So I was very overjoyed. I'm going to such a lovely place, etc., etc. And people told me about high altitude sickness. I know. I'm a doctor. I know all about it. I keep telling people. So Air Force planes. So we landed. I came down and stretched myself. What a lovely sight. Took my suitcase and there was a building very nearby, the Air Force setup. So I just walked there. And by the time I reached just about maybe 15 meters, I was breathless already. So the first thing I did was I forgot all about the place, picked up the telephone and told my senior medical officer that, sir, I have come. And he immediately went out. He said, don't, you just leave the phone, just sit there and I am coming. Don't move anywhere. For 2 days I was in a tizzy. Can't enjoy anything. Don't feel like eating. Want to walk away into the mountain. All kinds of strange feelings. I had read all about mountain sickness. Nothing was handy or helpful. I just had the urge to walk into the mountains and not come back. And I am saying, what's happening to my mind? Am I losing sense? So I was told, stay inside the room. Don't do anything. Then I realized the difference between reading a book and knowing the thing by real experience. That's why those who have not led a spiritual life or tried it, they cannot understand what happens when people take to sadhana. Really, it's very difficult to understand. The challenges they face, the difficulties they encounter, and how they work upon it. It's not an easy task. It's the toughest work in the world to engage with oneself in a way to conquer oneself. So she says, I want to seek my soul. None answered in that bright, contented world. Nobody knows. Are only turned on their accustomed way, astonished to hear questioning in that air, or thoughts that could still turn to the beyond. You can't question. Ask these pandits, Maulvis, priests, they are very unhappy. If you question the fixed belief, they will say you have lost your path. You will be condemned to hell if you question things. Because questioning means quest. It means you will go beyond. But some murmured, passers-by from kindred spheres. Each by his credo judged the thought she spoke. So what are the various kinds of credo? Some of them Sri Aurobindo in the passing is revealing to us. Who is this who knows not that the soul is a least gland or a secretion's fault, disquieting the sane government of the mind? Philosophy is safe. Spirituality is dangerous. You are a nutcase. As long as you say God is there, very fine. If you go in quest of God, oh, he is gone mad. Please counsel him. It doesn't sound something has gone wrong with him. So if you are also mad, you give all kinds of weird advices. And then people will say, oh, it was the wrong counselor. Because this is how it works. Because it disturbs the sane government. Sri Aurobindo in one of his poems takes a real funny dig at it. He says, one dreamed and saw a gland write Hamlet. A meditating thyroid, almost nude, sat under the bow tree and gained enlightenment. He is taking a dig at modern science which tries to explain away. Sri Aurobindo writes this in one of the letters to Dilip Kumar Roy. that science opposes spirituality, this is still okay. There is a greater danger that it accepts it and explains it away on material basis. Spirituality, yes, soul is there. There is something like soul. You know, it is in the pineal gland and its secretion. Now what has happened? You give a pill and you experience bliss. That's how it will work. This is a very dangerous thing. Because you have now a neat explanation for all those experiences. And shortcut to it is, that's how it develops. LSD and drugs of abuse, that you take them and you have the same experience which yogis have. Disordering the function of the brain, or a yearning lost in nature's mortal house. Or dream whispered in man's cave of hollow thought. Who would prolong his brief, unhappy term, or cling to living in a sea of death? They're crazy people who seek the soul, talk of God in a real earnest. Really they are seeking, they must have gone nuts. This is one kind of thought, credo. But others who are religious, this was the scientific type. Now more religious type, they will say, nay, it is her spirit she seeks, a splendid shadow of the name of God. God will remain forever there. But something like his shadow attracts human beings. The spirit is the holy ghost. Oh, I missed line. A formless luster from the ideal's realm. The spirit is the holy ghost of mind. But none has touched its limbs or seen its face. You cannot see it. You cannot connect with it. It is there. And this is here. After death, if you have subscribed to a religion, each religion has its own similar story with some variations, you will find a birth there. But don't expect to touch it, see it, feel it while you are here. You can live by certain beliefs. Each soul is the great Father's crucified Son. Mind is that soul's one parent, its conscious cause. There is no real soul. But the mind has fabricated a soul. The ground on which trembles a brief passing light. Mind, soul, creator of the apparent world. All that is here is part of our own self. Our minds have made the world in which we live. So mind is the real thing. Mind has created this, even this experience of material reality. All experience is mind born. The way we experience this world is because of the mind giving us this experience. And the way we experience our inner subjective things, they are also created by the mind. So mind is the parent cause. Much later, Savitri will meet the same arguments from death. But she has found her soul, so she can answer it, that no, they are two different things. So on one side, the doctrine that matter is all, and soul is nothing but a secretion from the gland which disorders the brain, and people become quiet. They start behaving crazily, they start seeing visions, and they call it God, God, God. The other, where mind is all, mind has created the universe, mind has fabricated a soul, mind gives you a feeling that there is something called a spirit. Yes, there is God, but not here. Something of that light perhaps falls into the mind, and the mind calls it the soul. But there is no real soul. Another with mystic and unsatisfied eyes. In every religion, there are few who are not quite satisfied. And they will find their way, regardless of and they are looking for an opening, for a door through which they can enter the beyond. So here is one, another with mystic and unsatisfied eyes, who loved his slain belief and mourned its death. So beautiful. His belief, he was living in a belief system. And it was slain by whatever, by circumstances, situations, events, happenings. He found it's not true. But what is truth, he doesn't know. So on one side, his belief system is slain, on the other side, he is mourning its death. Paradox, because that was the one which was making him live. Not realizing it's a golden opportunity to take a leap. See, this happens in yoga also. We start with a certain idea of the divine. Everyone. For instance, an idea that, in our yoga we can say, mother will do everything. It's very nice to live by that. It's a very sweet thing. Then something happens in our life which is very unfortunate. So we start wondering, why mother did this to me? To start with, it was a false assumption. And then we say, why mother did this to me? Then people who go still further, they say, oh, I don't like her. Because she has, I have actually seen people go through these stages. I am going to fight with her. All kinds of things. To start with, we fixed her into a small and narrow thought that mother is there to serve our needs and desires. But that's not her work. Her work is to pull us out of needs and desires. She is not here to strengthen the walls of our ignorance, but to free us from ignorance. She is not here to just make us fixed in comfort zones, but to liberate us into the infinite. So actually when this event happens, it's a good event because it helps us to pass beyond limited beliefs. There is a slain belief, but actually it's a wonderful opportunity. But it's also something we mourn because it was very comfortable and cozy. It's again the same thing. When people come, this wonderful place, ashram, really it's truly a heaven on earth. But they come with various beliefs. Everybody is a saint. Everybody is a sannyasi, renounced life, desireless, egoless, free. To start with, that's a false assumption. They are siddhas who have this. Everybody is a sadhak. Sadhak is not siddha. Second, the yoga gives its own challenges. So he comes expecting everybody. To start with, we have our own idea of saintliness. Saint will always be doing sweet talk. He will always be very well mannered, well behaved. Some of the yogis are very ill behaved. We know Devra Baba used to hit people with his leg, throw stones, and he was a genuine saint, self-realized. Mother has confirmed it. He used to throw stones when people came near his hut. Go, run away, I don't want you. Sri Aurobindo speaks of that there are yogis who go into states where their nature can become jadvat, like a stone. Unmatvat, like a madman. Pishachvat, like a ghoul. All kinds of things can happen. It's a real adventure. Nature cannot bear that force, that pressure. It can, people can lose mind. So they don't come expecting all this. They expect the moment we'll come at the gate, somebody will tell us, welcome, one more new entrant. Please, I'll give you a lecture on how this path is better than other paths. Somebody will be there to receive us, welcome us, gift us something, to lure us, convert us, but nothing happens. All that we are told at the gate is gate pass. So you say, I am sorry, what is that? So gate pass, okay. Then come after 8 o'clock. So you get a shock of your life. Not realizing it's a grace of your life. All our past identities, they are shaken up to bits. Retired army colonel came first time, sitting at the counter of one of the guest houses. So, he started recounting his stories because, they are always full of stories of war. So the man who was sitting and doing his work, for some time he remained silent, but he couldn't bear it after some time. He said, all right, you can keep quiet. Don't disturb us. So he felt very bad. He doesn't know I'm an army colonel. I have sacrificed so much. I said, here people have sacrificed much more when it is Nirad. They are sacrificing their ego. You can't even imagine what it means to try and sacrifice it. So just listen to them. Another man who was sitting in the meditation room and meditating, a judge from Bihar, and he was leaning against the wall. Now it is written here, do not lean, do not lean. He thought, what is there? I am meditating. Suddenly Nalnida came out of his room, and Chote Narayanji knew this man. So the moment he saw Nalnida, he knew what is going to happen, and he ran and hid himself on the staircase. He knew what is going to happen. Nalnida came and saw him leaning against the wall, and he didn't say anything. He started taking out this sound. He's like Leonine. Increasing the volume. Suddenly he came out of his meditation and saw Nalnida and said, do not lean against the wall. Sorry sir. And then he tells Chote Narayan ji, हम क्या गलत किए, हम तो meditation ही कर रहे थे. What wrong did I do? I was only meditating. What Nalnida was reminding him, remain conscious at all moments. He was like that. You are going to seek the all conscious. You are not even conscious of a little sign which is there. And you want to meet the all conscious. You are not meditating. You are falling into unconsciousness and calling it meditation. That's why in ashram we become so conscious. Always there are people who to make us conscious. So here is somebody, slain belief, and mourned its death. He says, is there one left who seeks for a beyond? Can still the path be found? Open the gate. Is there a way still? So, now the next movement starts. So, she fared on across her silent self. Savitri doesn't stop there. She's not comfortable only with philosophizing, intellectualizing, having panditya, reading the books and scholarly wisdom. She doesn't want that. She wants the real thing. And then comes the first indication of nearness to the soul. To a road she came thronged with an ardent crowd who sped brilliant, fire-footed, sunlight-eyed, pressing to reach the world's mysterious wall and pass through masked doorways into outer mind, where the light comes not, nor the mystic voice. Messengers from our subliminal greatnesses, guests from the cavern of the secret soul. Now she meets some real beings coming from the soul, the gods, the devatas. Just as all these planes are reflected within, all the gods, goddesses, they are all something of their light, something of their being, something of their energy is within the soul. The gods have plunged into creation, in man particularly. So she sees suddenly some sunlight-eyed beings who are emerging, rushing to the outer world where there is no light. Into dim spiritual somnolence they break. So what they were doing, waking up all those who were sleeping. Spiritual somnolence. Everybody is asleep. So we always say, complain, our child doesn't wake up. Big problem, 7 o'clock, he doesn't wake up for school. We don't wake up at 70. Divine bears with us. Spiritual somnolence. So they break into that and want to wake up. Just like Nalnida. Wake up. Don't fall asleep and call it meditation. Wake up. Uttishtata jagrata prapya varani bodhata. Wake up. So, how Champak Lalji would sometimes do this. Wake up. Some lady goes and tells, I want to see the mother soon. So Champak Lalji didn't understand carrying means that she is pregnant. He got annoyed. What are you carrying? You are carrying nothing. And you say you are telling a lie? How dare you tell a lie? He says, but I am carrying. I am really carrying. So, wake up. Don't tell a lie. That is the pressure one experiences here. It's a place for transformation. So one experiences that pressure. It's not spiritual somnolence, sitting for meditation, doing some bhajans and feel good factor. I have done my duty towards God. It's a constant. Into dim spiritual somnolence they break, or shed wide wonder on our waking self. Suddenly they fill our minds with wonder. Ideas that haunt us with their radiant tread. Dreams that are hints of unborn reality. These gods were bringing to men these dreams. And since they knew these truths, it had conviction. Strange goddesses with deep-pooled magical eyes. Strong wind-haired gods carrying the harps of hope. What is the work gods do? They bring hope, they bring light, they bring peace, they bring aspiration. They once again awaken us when we are asleep. This is their work. Great moon-hued visions gliding through gold air, aspirations, sun-dream head and star-carved limbs, emotions making common hearts sublime. They fill our hearts with love of God, intoxication of God. This is their work. So she saw these gods rushing out as she is going within. And Savitri, mingling in that glorious crowd, yearning to the spiritual light they bore, longed once to hasten like them to save God's world. This is a very difficult passion to resist. The moment we reach thus far, we experience that light, that love, and we want to share it, that joy, and we want to rush out to help the world. It's natural. It's very difficult to resist. Up till these layers, vital, mental, it's easy to negotiate and pass through. Anybody with little sincerity will see it. But the moment we enter into this realm where we experience the sense of something which is godly, godlike. We know how Sri Aurobindo initially wrote, our yoga is not for ourselves but for humanity. Then changed it later on. Our yoga is not for ourselves but for divine, not for humanity. And people took objection to it. They said, what do you mean, sir? He said, yoga is directed towards God, not towards man. Yes, humanity will benefit from it. But it's not, human beings are not the purpose of yoga. They are not the goal of yoga. To satisfy human beings, philanthropy, humanitarianism, these are not yoga. They are ideals and idealisms. Good when we are in ignorance, but they cannot pull us out of ignorance and show us the light. So she also feels the urge. She knew that first she must discover her soul. But she reined back the high passion in her heart. She knew that first she must discover her soul. Swami Vivekananda realized it later on. And he writes in one of the letters. He says, now I feel that all that I have done, all this is ambition. Very honest confession. Of course, he was meant to do this work. He was chosen for this work. But a time came when he began to realize that it's over. I must now look within. Only she knew that first she must discover her soul. Only who save themselves can others save. If we really want to help the world, we must have things with which we can help. If we don't have peace, what is the use of telling everybody, be peaceful, have peace? If somebody asks us, do you have peace? We say, I'm sorry, it's empty. And don't say this. Have trust in God, and we are full of doubts. It doesn't help. We must fill ourselves with that light, that peace, that love of the divine, that bhakti, that wisdom. Then yes, one can share it. But before that, in contrary sense, she faced life's riddling truth. And even then it should be done only under the command of the divine. It should not be done. Even if one has all the treasures, it should not be given unless there is a command. When somebody, of course, Vivekananda was an exception and he was marked out for this work. But when somebody came to Sri Ramakrishna after a few experiences, said, now I want to talk about all this. So Sri Ramakrishna told him with his style, jama kiya nahi, kharcha karne laga. You have not even gathered, deposited money in your bank and you have started spending. You have just a pocket full. First have a good treasure, back up and back up and back up. Because the world will suck it. That's why it's very important to have moments where you go within, recollect, refurnish yourself. Otherwise you'll just be lost. They carrying the light to suffering men, hurried with eager feet to the outer world. Her eyes were turned towards the eternal source. This we should never forget, regardless of whatever we may be doing. And that's what people couldn't understand. They started using words like, Sri Aurobindo has abandoned us, abandoned the freedom movement, left us. Even Charu Chandra Dutt, who used to call him chief, salute him. He had a big grouse with Sri Aurobindo. Why did he leave the freedom movement and go away? And to top it, when Sri Aurobindo was asked, why have you come away? What are you doing here? Sri Aurobindo would say nothing. That jinxed them further. Doing nothing? Then come into the freedom movement. And they had all kinds of their ideas, and Sri Aurobindo did not feel necessary to respond, except to George Baptista, because he was a genuine person. He asked him to once again take up the reins of the Congress, and Sri Aurobindo wrote a beautiful letter explaining a little bit about his present state. That even if I come out, nobody will understand or be ready to follow it. So I am disinclined to do it. Yes, I will come out when the Siddhi is complete. He never said, I'll never come out. He never used that word. But he said, when it is complete. And he went on pushing the goal further and further. Outstretching her hands to stay the throng, she cried. They know the goal. They know the path. The mind-born beings don't know. If you ask a philosopher who has read all books, okay, tell me how to find the soul and what are the experience on the way, they can't say this. They say soul is very good, your mind should believe in soul, it's good to believe in God, stuff like that. But these Godheads know. Outstretching her hands to stay the throng, she cried, "O happy company of luminous gods, reveal, who know, the road that I must tread. For surely that bright quarter is your home, to find the birthplace of the occult fire and the deep mansion of my secret soul." Without this experience at least once in life, without being rooted in that, one should absolutely refuse all urge to rush and help and seminars and conferences and stuff like that, because it's very dangerous. At least this must be there, and when it is there, even then, to wait for the clear guidance and to be clear and very, very clear. Without that, one should not rush into it, because it's humming, the whole working which is going on. One answered, pointing to a silence dim. Now, Sri Aurobindo has a beautiful image. It's a lovely image. And it's a true image, of course. There is all this activity, mind, life, all these fascinating, brilliant display of fireworks. And then the mind full of books, theories, paradigms. And then these gods, luminous, riding on chariots, rushing to help, powerful beings. Where do they point toward the soul? Towards a silence, dim, far away. Everything is quiet and silent. On a remote extremity of sleep, in some far background of the inner world. Nobody. And Savitri turns there. Nobody I can see there. It seems to be drowned in quietude and solitude. O Savitri, from thy hidden soul we come. We are the messengers, the occult gods, who help men's drab and heavy ignorant lives to wake to beauty and the wonder of things. We are there to bring hope and light and beauty, and we come from your soul, touching them with glory and divinity. What else do these divine beings do? In evil, we light the deathless flame of good. Those who are indulging in evil and darkness, we light in them the flame towards good and light and truth and beauty. And hold the torch of knowledge on ignorant roads. Men need this torch, and we bring it to them. We are thy will, and all men's will towards light. O human copy and disguise of God, who seekest the deity thou keepest hid, and livest by the truth thou hast not known. Already she is living by it. And this is the phase when we enter, then we are very close to the soul. They will lead us to that, because this is their work. And then something very marvelous, very powerful. Look at the image. Follow the world's winding highway to its source. Whatever you are doing, world's winding highway, go to its source. Mother, when she was asked, tell us about yoga, she took a paper and pen and drew a drawing. So she first made a drawing like this, reaching a point. Then she made a straight line. And she said, this is ordinary life. Going through mazes, it's also going toward there, but unknowing. The straight line is yoga. Same point you are reaching. But man will go through winding pathways. Oh, I'll get happiness here. Oh, here is the person whom I love. Here I will get perfect understanding. Here I will get that joy which never fades. So here I'll get peace. And then this is taken away. So he goes from one illusion to another, one illusion to another, one illusion to another. But yoga is straight to that. Here is bliss. Here is love. Here is wisdom. Here is truth. Straight. Then things come on the way, but one just passes through. One knows this is the goal. One doesn't confuse one for the other. Follow the world's winding highway to its source. There in the silence, few have ever reached. Thou shalt see the fire burning on the bare stone. Matter, bare stone. It's a fire burning in the hidden last crypt of matter. It's burning there. And the deep cavern of thy secret soul. There you have to cross that threshold. And then, very touching line. Then Savitri, following the great winding road, came where it dwindled into a narrow path. All this is now left behind. Philosophy, theory, powers, occult siddhis, name, fame, ambition, it's all gone. Even this urge to help, all this is gone. She reaches a point where there is silence, just one fire burning on a bare stone. Came where it dwindled into a narrow path, and just a little narrow path, like Amarnath. At the end of it, you have just a small little cave. You have to go alone. And look, marvelous line. Trod only by rare wounded pilgrim feet. None can reach there without chala in the pav. If you believe your life is unwounded and it is grace, think twice. Perhaps grace has not yet turned its gaze. None can reach there without at least a few wounds in the feet. Of course, those who rely on grace don't look at it. They don't bother about it. They are carried in the arms of love. That's different. But the wounds will still be there, though the balm of mother's love will carry it through. So, trod by rare, wounded pilgrim feet. A few bright forms emerged from unknown depths and looked at her with calm, immortal eyes. There was no sound to break the brooding hush. One felt the silent nearness of the soul. This silence, this peace. Yes, this hush. It's near. So, 3-4 minutes more. I just want to read a little letter of Sri Aurobindo which summarizes this mental world. We are told often nowadays that to earn for one's family and carry out our domestic duties, to be a good and moral man, a perfect citizen, patriot, worker for the country, is far more spiritual than to sit in idle meditation. This what he says is, we are told, this is a modern mind. Seeking for a remote and invisible deity. Philanthropy, altruism, service to mankind are represented as the true spiritual things. Mental idealisms, ethical strivings, aesthetic finenesses are put forward by the modern mind as things spiritual. All this is represented as the best and highest we can achieve, though an increasing disillusionment, dissatisfaction, feeling of emptiness in them is also growing at the same time. All who are genuine are beginning to realize the hollowness behind all this. All this has had its use, for everything has its own value in its own place, and those who are satisfied with them are entitled to give them their full value and hold them as the great good and the thing to be done. He says, I have no quarrel with them who feel this is all. and don't seek anything further. Fine. Happiest to stand on faith as on a rock. He is saying the same thing. You believe in mental idealism, sentimental idealism, philanthropy, humanitarianism, no issues, do it. Be satisfied with it. But spirituality stands on its own basis and does not depend on these things. But you must know that this is not same as spirituality. When Dilip Kumar Roy writes to Sri Aurobindo, people in ashram don't even have the minimum SC in bracket, social consciousness. They don't even know manners. Sri Aurobindo says, all right, I take your point, but people are not here to become well-mannered social beings. They are here to achieve this other SC capital, in bracket, spiritual consciousness. Then he says it's not an excuse to become ill-mannered, but don't mistake a well-mannered, perfect gentleman to be spiritual. They are two very different things. So here he says something still more deeper. So also, nor does it even include them, spiritual life, so long as they are based on some other than the spiritual consciousness and not transformed on the inner spiritual basis. Spiritual consciousness is standalone. It will not do all this unless they are on a spiritual basis. A spiritual man can be an artist, can be a painter, a poet, a doctor, anything. But it should be done on that basis, not just ignorantly. Now he says something even more interesting. So also people speak of religious men as spiritual, but one may be a very religious man yet not spiritual. So if somebody has never visited the Ganesh temple, it's perfectly fine. No need to feel bad about it. I'm one of them. Never been. 30 years. Because Uma is here, no. The mother of the worlds. So, yes, we can say hi, hello. Religious things are different. Oh, this festival, Ganesha festival. Oh, that festival. Oh, Yagna is going on, let us go there. Oh, Rath Yatra is going on. If one wants to do, one can do it. But one should not mix it with spirituality. One may do all these things. Go to temple every day. Do a tilak. This actually even Saint Kabir is said. But Sri Aurobindo is emphasizing it. That don't mistake it for the spiritual life. One can be very religious. Look what Sri Aurobindo is saying. One may be a very religious man yet not spiritual. Religion may only flatter his ego. The popular idea confuses great feats of occult power. Then again he speaks of that. Ascetic feats, miracles, astonishing performances like those of your jewel sannyasi as the works of a spiritual achievement and the signs of a great yogi. Then some people confuse it with occult powers. Somebody who can just produce a jewel and give it to you. But one may be a powerful occultist or do marvels of asceticism and yet be not spiritual at all. In fact, the mother says at one place in agenda, ascetic habits, people who make rigid rules about asceticism, it's a big bar to the supramental life. She says that, particularly in India, though all these proscriptions and prescriptions. She says that. So one may be a great ascetic, living bare body without a fan, sleeping on floor, using a brick for takiya or not even that. That has nothing to do with spiritual life. He may have great occult powers. Do some abracadabra and create jewel and pass on to you. It's nothing to do with spiritual life. For in any true sense of the word, in its proper and native significance, it means one who has attained to the spiritual consciousness. What does spiritual life mean? The realization of the inner or higher self, the contact or union with the divine, that experience or that which is eternal or is striving after and approaching these things. His aspiration is to unite with the divine, to become one with the divine, to give oneself entirely to the divine, to love the divine as nothing else. That is spiritual. Spiritual perfection can only come by a life based on that search and that achievement. That is the spiritual life. And finally, the spiritual life, Adhyatma Jivan, the religious life, Dharma Jivan, and the ordinary human life of which morality is a part, are three quite different things, and one must know which one desires and not confuse the three together. It's a long letter, and I'll stop here. It's 6:15, early dinner. So we'll meet tomorrow, same time.